Yeah, that's Alex Cora. I mean, you got to kind of go out with a smile. And you at least want to get 2 out of 3 in this series. Tampa's kind of limping. They've lost 3 in a row now. They're going to for sure be the third wild card. I think mathematically Baltimore can't catch them. I think it's really Tampa really trying to fight with Seattle for the second wild card spot, and I don't think they'll catch Seattle. Anytime the A's are on your schedule here the last few years.
Yeah, and Seattle's 2 up right now in the Tampa Bay race.
I mean, Mike, the Little League team I coached last year would be up 2 on the A's right now. I mean, but look, like the caller John Newton was just saying, look, all these math heads in baseball, because clearly Oakland is a franchise that depended so much on this math head stuff. They're so bad, and they have no desirable pieces. They don't even they're trying to figure out where they're going to play next. Like, I don't even know if I don't even know if I was Vegas if I would take the A's. Right? The A's would be like, all right, do you want tickets to see Usher, the Raiders, or the A's? They're like, who are the A's? They're this baseball team that moved here from Oakland. I'll tell you what, we'll give it to you. Buy a pot of coffee, we'll give you a family 4-pack of tickets. That's just how bad the A's are. And I think that's where a lot of the frustration that people have towards Chaim Bloom, because he comes off as kind of like a Billy Bean type, bro, you can go tinker. You can play with tinker toy sets with the Oakland A's, not with the Boston Red Sox. Especially where now you're starting to have generations of kids who are growing to know the team to be a world champion. There are times in the 80s, mid-80s, you could have snuck seasons like this in, and you'd be like, we're just lovable losers. Early 90s, I mean, that's what happened. Late 90s, early 2000s, you kind of do that stuff. Finishing last in the AL East 5 out of the last 10 years is beyond unacceptable. 2 out of the last 3 years. The fan base is just not going to go for that. And it's like, look, while the Yankees, I still think, will slip and fall in the playoffs and we'll all celebrate here, why is it not a situation where at one point you felt like, hey, this Red Sox team could score runs, and if you got some people who could throw pitches in the middle innings, that could have been a great upset. And here come the Red Sox once again, like last year, trudging through the wild card, maybe now making a run to the World Series. But no. And so I look at some of the stuff that's on, the pitchers that are on hand, and I say, okay, you know what? Nick Pavetta, despite his struggles, he had the most quality starts. He was always available. And you've heard me say sometimes the best ability is availability. So Nick Pavetta is someone that you have to say, okay, you have to keep this guy in the squad, because if the team does better, then maybe you have a guy who's going to perform better. As bad as this season was at 10-12 and 12 quality starts and 32 starts, I mean, like, the dude was not missing his assignments. So you say, okay, there's room for him. And then you have to look at someone like Michael Wacha, who you say, wow, really was impressive this year in a bad season. Even though his age is up there, you say, can't you use someone like that in the bullpen? So, like, or as a fifth starter potentially, or a rotating fifth starter, something. So you're like, okay, Pavetta, yes. Wacha, yes. Rich Hill, maybe you negotiate. Maybe you start looking at being a long reliever. Like, hey, you're not going to see you every 5 days, but if someone gets knocked around after 3, be ready. And that might happen every 10 days. So a spot starter there. Nathan Eovaldi, I think he's gone, so throw him in the water. Nasty Nate, give us one last good goodbye. Make it a sweet, sloppy kiss, because we know you're gone. And I just don't see how there's a pathway for the Red Sox to say, yes, we're going to bring him back, when injuries are now going to have to be a factor. Age is a factor as well. Tomorrow's really just a look-see for the rest of the league to see if he's still got that speed on his fastball. Can he still get good, consistent hitters out? Garrett Whitlock, I like what he did this year. At one point, it looked like Garrett Whitlock was going to pitch every other game this season, just wearing him out, and it did wear him out. But I think as part of the bullpen, I would feel much more comfortable with Garrett Whitlock coming in there, even if it's for the 6th and the 7th. Then you say, okay, you got something there, so Whitlock is something you keep. Cutter Crawford, very game effort, but throw him back into the Worcester Water. I'm sorry, kid. Look, I think the moment got too big for him at times where some things look good, but when they look bad, they look really bad. Josh Winkowski, need I say more? Get that H2O, buddy. Schreiber, oh, what a godsend. Like, you almost felt like this guy, he should be called the human Band-Aid. Because with all the bleeding and all the cuts the Red Sox were going through, it always seemed like Schreiber had the Band-Aid and the Neosporin just to make it feel better. You remember the old I am stuck on Band-Aid? That was John Schreiber. Johnny Hookup, right? So, yeah, you might even start looking at him as potentially the setup man to the closer, or even give him a shot at being the closer going into the spring. Ryan Brazier, I don't know. I like to throw water on my meat. Get him wet! Woo! What a Ryan Brazier was this year. Gosh. Tanner Houck, look, I love how he stepped up in the bullpen role. 8 saves, and how long ago did you see Tanner Houck? So Tanner Houck may be someone you say, hey, if you've got him, maybe you pair him up with Schreiber towards the end of that bullpen. If you know that you might not be able to go to your closer all the time, you have a real option with Houck. This doesn't feel as bad as I thought this bit was going to be. Brian Bayo, oh my gosh. How did in Coming to America, where they start singing "She's Your Queen to Be" as they're presenting Eddie Murphy with his bride before he goes to America, it's still the Africa scene. It feels like we are seeing the birth of a prince here in Brian Bayo. I think it's just a matter of being able to get further into the game.
Good morning, my neighbor!
Yes, hello. Yes, well, that's actually when they got to America. But yes, that's how we're going to be feeling in the future after Brian Bayo pitches. We're going to feel like just Eddie Murphy is able to just sow his royal oats in America, because as he has a chance to be able to study batters and more film, get a full spring training with the big team, you're going to start and if he gets a devastating third pitch that dives down and away, it won't even matter if it's a left-hander. That left-hander is just going to be looking for that heat and believing that the changeup is going to land somewhere. And if there's something like if he gets a split, it doesn't have to be a split, but something with some downward action that in the dirt, it will just be incredible.
He good.
He good. That boy good. Not good and terrible. Like Matt Strom. Okay. But do you like? Is the only reason why you're saying like, okay, you got to keep him in the mix because he's a lefty? That probably gets him to the pier, but doesn't get him wet just right now. Yeah, a little bit. Just put there you go. Just put the toe in when it comes to Strom, because there's a thin line. You want to throw him all the way in, Joe. Tyler Danish, not ready for the prime time. Cool. Yeah, get in. Matt Barnes. I'm going to go out on a limb. Time to cut bait. Drop that fish back in the water. If you believe that Houck can get it done, and if you like what Schreiber does, and you've got Whitlock, you might have to cut bait with Matt Barnes sooner than later, while there's still value. Oh, this is Orca right here. Caleb Ork! Yes. One more time. That boy good and terrible. Just the moment was too big, too often, and even the small moments became too big, too often. Look, maybe there are other places that will be able to support the size of that whale, but I think in terms of moving forward, this was a miss right here. Connor Seabold, I love the confidence, but boy, you look marvelous underwater. Yeah, Seabold, while the confidence is there, I think Worcester is still there for a reason. You allow him to come up with a big club during spring training, get in some split games, see what he can do, get a little better evaluation, and possibly, see what the new pieces are and face some of those possibly better batters. Because think about it, in spring training, a lot of these pitchers got to face Bobby Dahlbeck.
Of course you put Seabold in the water.
I like that. Put him back in just for that, man. Seabold! I'm sorry. It fits. That was great, Joe. Darazan Hernandez. Yeah, that experiment's over. Get in, bro. And you're lefty. That should have bought you something. Chris Sale. Whoo! I'll tell you what right now. If Chris Sale has any more accidents, if this guy spills tea on his lap and is on the DL at the start of next season, get his ass in the water. It's kind of being sick of the narrative. At this point, you might have to put the number 4 in between Chris and Sale and see if anybody will take. Franklin Herman, not ready for prime time. Get in there. There you go. It may not be as bad as one thinks. But again, the ones that were in there that were bad, they were stinking fish. It was bad.
Yeah, you put Seabold in the water and you have Sale setting sail.
Okay, so the trick with sometimes when you hit it and quit, Joe. You hit and quit. You hit and stop.